Thursday. Michael and Sal live from our studios in New York City. And as you can see, I have a book right here on our set. It's called The Streak, Lou Gehrig, Cal Ripken, and baseball's most historic record. John Eisenberg is the author of this fine book, and he is kind enough to join us right now here on the show to talk about this new publication. Hey, John, it's Michael and Sal. How are you today?
Doing well, thank you. How are you?
Doing excellent. Thank you so much. What inspired you to write this book about the streak, about two of the legends of the game?
Well, I was a columnist at the Baltimore Sun for many years, and I was on hand for all the high points of Cal Ripken's career, including the night when he passed Gehrig's record. And, of course, it's a while ago at this point. And all these years later, I was looking for a book idea, and it just struck me that this was sort of an interesting topic. Part of the reason being that, there are no more consecutive game streaks in baseball. I think the longest active streak right now is like 250 games. It's actually the Kansas City Royals shortstop, Alcides Escobar. So it's disappeared from baseball. So what I thought was, instead of just writing about Cal, why don't I write about this record? What is it about this record? I mean, if you play in if you hit a bunch of home runs, I mean, everybody cheers for you and says, great job. And if you strike out a bunch of batters, everybody just cheers for you and says, great job. But if you play in a bunch of games in a row, they still cheer for you, but they also say, well, why did you do that? Who cares? It struck me as an unusual record. So what I did with this book is really study the history of the Ironman feats in baseball, the whole idea of endurance in baseball. Where did it come from? Who thought it was a good idea? Is it a good idea? And going through that really takes me through from the 1870s up until modern-day baseball. And, of course, Ripken and Gehrig are the main two characters. They're the ones that took these long streaks into history. But, I also sort of study ideas like, is a day off does a player benefit from a day off? Should Gehrig and Ripken have taken days off? And just really a deep dive into the whole idea of it. And so it wound up being certainly more than enough territory to cover in the book.
And why do you think that this is the most historic record, as you use in the title?
Well, it's hard to argue with. Certainly, plenty of people could take issue with that. But what are the holy trinities? What are the great numbers in baseball history for many years? It was Joe DiMaggio's 56-game hitting streak, Babe Ruth's 714 home runs. And Lou Gehrig's 2,130 straight games, and now here along comes Cal Ripken all these years later, breaking that record with a night that I think all baseball fans remember. Just a night of amazing history. You had one icon passing another icon, and you can certainly make the case that there have been very few moments in baseball history in the last half century that match that. So certainly. It is a record. That's part of the reason is I am writing about the record, and it is certainly one that has generated some of the most historic and poignant moments in sports history.
What is your favorite Cal Ripken story associated with the streak?
My favorite Cal Ripken story associated with the streak? Well, what was pretty funny was, Cal received some criticism at one point for towards the end of his streak. There was so much scrutiny and so much fan attention, and he was being followed everywhere. It was the best story going in baseball, and he was traveling with the team. And actually, Sports Illustrated wrote about this. He was being hounded by autograph seekers everywhere he went. And so one night after a game, he is going down the hall to get some ice. And there are two autograph seekers behind the ice machine. And they jump out. And Cal thought they were like attacking him. I mean, he didn't know what was going on. And so just freaked him out completely. And that was a point where he decided he needed to stay under an assumed identity at a different hotel. From the team. I didn't really want to do that, but he did because it was overwhelming him. It was suffocating him how much interest there was in what he was doing, playing every day, and he couldn't really do his job. so he decided that at that point he needed to stay apart from the team.
What was his alias? Do you know, John?
That's a really good question. I did some digging into that, and I couldn't find it. That's a really good one. I'd love to find that out.
Now, there's also, I guess, an urban legend, and maybe there's some truth. Does your book dive into a story surrounding Cal Ripken, Kevin Costner, and a delay or some lights that were a cord that was cut at Camden Yards, so a game was canceled? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, absolutely. It's a very, very famous story, and I studied it. It's not in the book for reasons I'll explain. But no, the urban legend is that Cal found his wife in bed, I think, with Kevin Costner, and so somehow it got physical, and he wound up in the lockup or something like that locally here in Baltimore. And therefore, the Orioles decided that was no way to end the streak, so they threw the lights before a game against the Seattle Mariners. And it is very much an urban legend. Certainly a great internet rumor, but if you go and look at I investigated this before I decided whether or not to include it. And there's footage taken on the field when the lights are coming back on. Plus, they did play that night. They put the lights on, and Cal's on the field. He's among the players that are warming up. As well, there was also a dialogue behind the scenes when the lights were out, and the union reps from each team were deciding whether or not to play or how they were going to replay the game, reschedule the game. Cal was in those dialogues, and the Mariners union reps are on record saying that. We were talking to Cal, so he was there. So, it's one of these beautiful internet rumors that is almost surely not true.
Yeah, how did that get started then?
Yeah.
Oh, I have no idea. I think we could do a whole other show on how rumors get started on and perpetuate. So, but anyway, it's out there.
Okay.
John, what's the true significance of this record? It's something that we will never see again, the way the game has evolved to where guys are constantly getting rest. So, I love the fact that it was somebody who wanted to go out there and play every single day. But give me your take with the true significance of this record.
Well, the true significance, I think, is the beauty of principle. I went into this with. I covered Cal as a newspaper guy. I wasn't always positive, and I did have. Cal always said when he was playing that I'm not trying to set the record. I just play. I'm just doing my job. I play every day. The record is sort of a byproduct of that. This is my job, is to be here and play ball, and they put me in the lineup. I went into this book project with a little bit of skepticism on that. I wasn't entirely sure that I believed him, but, I came out of it. I do understand. There's no question at some point, he certainly got caught up in this and wanted to keep this record going, but it definitely comes from the principle that he got from his dad, who is one of the great baseball lifers, minor league coach and player, a half century in the game, and he taught him, there's a way you play baseball, and if you're going to be a Major League Baseball player, here's what you do: you get there early, you prepare, you watch video, you take infield, you take batting practice, and then you play. And if you're being paid well, which you are, son, you play if you can. And so Cal, that's his DNA. And so, I think the beauty of it is the principle that is shown here. He did believe that. He could help the team, even if he was hitting .210. He was great defensively. At one point, he was calling the pitches for some younger teammates. There was always something he could do that would help the Baltimore Orioles. And so I think it's pretty cool in hindsight. I don't know how much you see that anymore. This is just a sheer principle of the importance of being out there and the value of everything that's not just numbers. And so it's definitely gone by the wayside. But, it was just 20 years ago. But that is an example of a guy playing on principle that is pretty cool.
The night that Cal Ripken broke the Lou Gehrig Iron Man streak, Joe DiMaggio was there in attendance at that game. And then DiMaggio's name just came up again yesterday because Aaron Judge, I don't know if you've been following that, John, Aaron Judge for the Yankees tied the Yankees rookie record for most home runs hit, and that was for a season in 1936, and Judge does it right now before the All-Star break. I'm just curious, what are your thoughts there as Judge? Do you sense that maybe he might be that next guy that falls in that lineage of greats from the Yankees?
Oh, well, there's no question about it. I mean, listen, I'm in Baltimore. I follow the Baltimore Orioles. I mean, Aaron Judge has knocked the Orioles senseless this year. I mean, that is the only word. I'm very impressed with him. He looks like the real deal to me. I mean, some guys come along and there's sort of flashes in the pan. Judge is amazing. It's really fun to watch, even when he's battering your team's brains in. So, my hat is off to him. But, anytime something comes up with Joe DiMaggio, or Gehrig, I mean, it's real history, and I think that's what's pretty cool about it. Someone asked me, I mean, why was Ripken's streak? Why did people get so into it? And I do believe that part of it was that it was Lou Gehrig's record. One of the most tragic and famous stories of the 20th century America. What happened to Lou Gehrig? His rise and his fall. And, it's an incredible movie about it. And, I mean, it's just an amazing story. And, if Cal had been chasing, the second baseman for the Seattle Mariners or somebody that it wouldn't have been quite a big deal. He was chasing Lou Gehrig's ghost. And, that is powerful, powerful stuff. And so I think that the Gehrig and the fact that DiMaggio, who played with Gehrig, felt like he should be there that night to see Cal break that record, and honor Lou Gehrig. I mean, that just doesn't come along very often, and it's pretty cool.
And then one night, Cal Ripken tells his skipper, "Look, I'm done." How did that come to be on that particular evening when he ended the streak himself?
Yeah, and it was against the Yankees, in Camden Yards, the last night home game for the Orioles in 1998. Cal was 3 years removed from it. He was 38 years old. He didn't have a particularly good season. The Orioles had been a good team for a couple of years. They were sort of going backwards. And he just felt, as he said it, he's internally sort of losing support for what he was doing within the organization. It was just something that maybe a losing team didn't need to deal with. And, the fact that he should be out there every day. And so, really big picture, I think he just said, this thing's sort of run its course. I mean, he had the record. He was well beyond it. And everything has its moment. And he just made the decision about halfway through that season, honestly, that it would not extend. If the Orioles fell out of contention, which they did, it was time to put a bow on this thing. And so he was originally going to do it in the last game of the season. His wife at the time said, you should do it in Baltimore where the fans have been able to cheer for you. So he did it at the last home game. And about 15 minutes or an hour before the game, he told Ray Miller, who was the manager at the time, this is it, we're doing it. Ray rewrote the lineup. He couldn't believe it at first, but then rewrote the lineup, and sure enough, and they sent out a young kid named Ryan Miner to play in his place, and Ryan thought it was a joke. He thought it was a joke. He said, you're pulling a prank on me, I'm a rookie. But no, they sent him out there, and the Yankees very quickly realized that he was not on the field when that game began, and stood at the top step of the dugout and started applauding him. And very quickly everyone became aware of what was going on, and he stuck, no pinch hitting for him. That was the end of it. The game ended, he didn't play, and the streak was over.
Interesting. Well, fascinating topic there. Can't wait to dive into this book, John. Thank you so much for joining us here on the show, and congratulations on this book.
Great. Thanks for having me on.